I'll start by introducing myself and then allow the lovely panel to introduce themselves. So I'm Danielle, Reilly now. I was Neville before I got married, the oldest bride in May last year. And I've been at IMG for a long time, for 20 years. And my role there is head of production services. So we interface between all of our amazing production clients and all of our amazing technical and broadcast engineering teams and operational teams at IMG. And over to Sam.
Hi, I am Sam Dunlop, Samantha Dunlop. I have been at IMG for 3 years. I've had a varied career. I know we'll run back to that, but
no, feel free. Yeah, to start. You can introduce yourself and talk about your career today.
My job at IMG in the last 3 years is really to manage the Premier League contract. So we look after all the distribution, incoming of all the matches and global feeds and content for Premier League. Before that, I had a diverse route up. I spent a number of years running a studio, so I came very much from a studio-based background. And prior to that, I spent 17 years at MTV, where I cut my teeth coming up the traditional way of auto cues, floor sound, floor engineer, transmission, and I will talk more a little bit about the benefits of that. But yes, I'll pass on to you. That's
Thank
me.
Hiya, I'm Charlotte Winter, and I'm the newbie, I think, because I've been at IMG for just over 7 months. I joined last summer. And as I'm sure you know, IMG produce thousands of hours of content across a range of sports, across a range of countries. And as my role as head of live technology, I'm responsible for making sure that basically hits our screens correct. So making sure the satellite, the fibre delivery, the on-site setup is all correct. And that can be everything from a traditional OB. So for Channel 4, we look after all of their England football, international qualifiers, CBS, Champions League coverage, we do that back at IMG Studios. And yeah, so prior to that, I was at BT Sport, which is now TNT Sport, for 10 years. So yeah, it's been a bit of a change.
And a very non-TV degree, did you?
Entirely non-degree TV degree. My degree was history and politics, that brilliant television basis. But actually, as I think we might discuss in a little while, that has probably been one of the best things for me, not having a television degree and now working in engineering.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Hello,
Dan.
I'm Dan Walter, and I run the IMG camera department on the ENG type cameras. Wouldn't be studio cameras, that's a separate department completely. I've been at IMG for 13 years, which is quite a long time, but I've done a few roles within that. When I started as a runner, which is a good entry-level role to TV. I'd recommend it if you're just new to the industry. And I look after all the kits that would leave IMG, whether that be flying abroad. So a lot of logistics involved in my role. And obviously, I've got to stay ahead of the tech, which is why I'm talking about it, I guess.
Great, yes, no, and so you've got a good mixture of people who've been in the company for a long time and people who've come to us recently with some great experience outside IMG. So I suppose let's start with a question around talking about your different backgrounds, which are quite varied. Would you recommend to somebody starting in this industry to focus on a specialist subject, or do you think looking for a little bit of variety is better at this point?
I mean,
as I sort of briefly touched on earlier, I did a history and politics degree, but my love was always sport. So if I'm being honest, I really wanted to be a sports commentator. I would have been awful, like absolutely dreadful if I was a commentator. I talk way too quickly and I waffle a lot, as you're probably going to experience in the next hour, so I apologise. But as it turned out, that love of sport is actually why I love my job so much, and I then managed to find this amazing role. So when I joined BT Sport, again, I was a production secretary, and I just had this really, really lucky break, and that was that I got put with the chief engineer of BT Sport. He's actually in the room, Andy Veal. And if you're looking to network, that is someone brilliant to talk to, because Andy was chief engineer, and if you're looking for a kind of a tech role, I had this really amazing experience where Andy took me to an OB, and I was there as a production secretary, and really I was basically sorting out his diary. And I went to this OB at Arsenal for an FA Cup a Friday night, and I just fell in love with OBs, and then that kind of transformed my next 10 years. And I'm not a specialist in any way, shape or form, so I know a little bit about every area, and for me, that's been brilliant. And so I absolutely love that aspect. I kind of know a little bit about a lot, but I could never ever go and like rig a truck and be a vision guarantee, because that isn't where my expertise are. But similarly, I do need people that can do that. Yeah. So it's one of those things, my view is, and I think we kind of were talking about this before, is it doesn't matter if you either want to have a really big cross-section or you want to be really sort of specialised, because there will be a role out there for you.
And building your context books, I suppose, is important in that front. Being the person who knows all the right people and who brings them all together is a really important
Exactly,
role.
but like I said, Danielle, I would never, ever be able to really hone in and do one thing amazingly, but unless it was about satellite, it would be like my mastermind subject. Oh my God, yeah, I could talk about satellites like non-stop. Again, I'm wild at a dinner party. But I think that's why within our roles, and I think we were saying this, that actually you have to have a variety of those people. So we do need the people that are really widespread and know a lot about a lot, and then people that really do hone in on a subject.
I mean, I'll pick up on that because I think it's interesting. There are some people who clearly find a genre that they love, and that's going to drive them. It could be writing, it could be script writing, it could be, producing, it could be the ideas behind it. It could be a vast number of things. I mean, and I think you go that route and you follow that. I don't know. I fell into television. I came here from abroad, and I was a dishwasher actually. But I happened to be in the right place, so I ended up having a job doing auto cue, and then I went from auto cue. I became a sound working on the studio floor sound, and then we did some comms engineer. And then I became a sound mixer, and then I went from there, and I moved around a lot, and then I went into sort of management. Then I was interested in transmission in the early days. I'm quite old. The early days of sort of regionalisation and automation around transmission and digital carriers, and that was really interesting. Then I went back to my first love studio. So I found that I know a lot about a lot about a lot of things, and I think that's allowed me to run a television studio based in light entertainment, which I worked at the Hospital Club studio. We did Strictly Come Dancing, the spin-off show for years, and all that kind of your glitzy sort of TV shows. But then look at me now. I've ended up working in a football delivery company. And that's because I know a little bit about everything. I don't have a passion about football. Whoops.
What is shocking, Sam?
But I do have a passion about stuff, and I like to understand how everything connects together. You know what I mean? When you are thinking about whether you are producing a show or whether you're out shooting, how's your lighting going to work? How are you going to read those lights? Are you going to get enough power? Are your electrical cables going to cross your PA rig? All these little bits of information that you just get from having all that variety. So I'm really about. I love the variety. It worked for me. Content. I'm flexible.
So we've got 2 votes on variety, Dan.
I'd say variety all the way. But you do have to respect the craft, I think. I don't know. If you ask me this tomorrow, I might give you a different answer. But I'd say probably to go in with an open mind, just respecting each craft and enjoying it, because you might go in wanting one thing, coming out the other end with something completely different, which is probably likely to happen, I'd say.
And I would say a lot of people who are starting in this industry probably do have an individual passion, right? I would imagine if I asked all of you, you would have one thing, like Charlotte said, sports was her passion. You probably do have that, and that's important, I think, to bring forward, because that's what drives you, right? What makes you really want to be successful. So to Dan's point of holding that, respecting the craft and maintaining your passion, but really I think the overall view here is to try and spread that sort of passion as wide as you can within the industry to find some roles that you can help and develop in. So thanks, guys. So one of the main things that we're discussing today is how we can stay ahead in the ever-changing TV tech industry. It changes every 5 minutes, I think. So Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
It is ever-changing. It changes like the weather. I can't keep up. I'm trying to keep up, and that would be the advice, is to continue your learning when you arrive study your passions, try and stay ahead of the game because it's changing so quickly. You can do that, attend these talks online, self-education, I would say, and continue networking with people you meet, little discussions you have in corridors and water coolers. They're going to be the little sparks that remind you to do something else, which might lead to another path. But yeah, the tech is changing quick, so
that's great advice. And I see you do that at work, if you don't mind me saying. I think you're a great self-teacher, aren't you? You do a lot of your own research, and you've got great contacts within particularly the camera industry. Yeah. So you're always coming to me with, we should be investing in this kit, or wouldn't it be great if Premier League used that kit and stuff? So that's all you continuing to learn yourself, right? Yeah. So that's great. That's great advice. And what about you, Charlotte?
Yeah, and I think exactly as you were just saying, Dan, I think going to things like this, I know, is it the MPTS show? Is it Olympia in May? You should go to that. If you're interested in television or in making content, absolutely go to those things that are in the UK if you can, because you will see vendors and stallholders and you can have a chat with them. And as Dan said, at those events, you network and you go to talks like this. I think that's so important. For any of the women in the room, there's Rise Academy. If you can get involved with that, I absolutely think you should. It's an amazing kind of company that look to invest and get more women within the industry. So again, if you have an interest, do that. And
they have a great mentorship program.
An amazing mentorship. Yeah. So you have a mentorship where you get amazing women that are kind of already established in the industry who will kind of guide you through your careers. And I really would kind of suggest looking into that. And again, I think subscribing to things like and looking at like SVG and broadcast, just constantly keeping up across what they're doing, because they don't just focus on the UK, they look at other kind of industries worldwide. So they do a lot, I've seen them do things on the Bundesliga and La Liga and looking at all the different investments they've got. So just trying to keep on top of that technology. And just when you are at these things, please have the confidence to come up and talk to us. So actually do say, hi, I've just got a quick question, and do you know what, another great tool, and actually used to drive me up the wall, but I've grown to love it. LinkedIn is actually great. And it really pains me to say it, because for a long time, I just felt like it was not my thing.
Right, so Charlotte Winter on LinkedIn.
Yeah, right? Everyone come at me. It's actually amazing. It's amazing both for context, but also it's amazing for hearing different stories. And those stories will give you knowledge about the industry, and it's those little bits of knowledge that you can then, when you're having those conversations, drop in and will make you memorable. But please have that confidence to actually speak to people. That is so important.
Great points. Thank you, Charlotte. And Sam?
Well, it's funny. I was going to talk about the future of tech, and I realised that's not the question. The question is because obviously I'm really interested in the future of tech, because obviously that's what we do at PLP. We look at how new tech is delivered. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time just discussing that, because I think new tech is about where these roles are coming from. We had a meeting in our office, the other day, and we're talking about people don't just watch long form. They're not subscribing to Sky and watching the match. The average person watching a football match is 64. The average person who's got a Sky license is probably going to be in their 40s and 50s. But people are still consuming it, but they're not consuming it the same way. We did actually drift off and think about whether gastropubs have ruined the football industry, because I thought that was like, I know who to blame for that. But, people don't go to the pubs anymore and watch football. So, again, they're not consuming it that way. But they're consuming it on their phones. They're consuming it in short forms. They're sharing it. They want different things. They don't necessarily want the gold highlights. They want that funny moment. So this is what we're talking about. And how do we get these? Because this is not stuff that you can monetize as easily as just getting a Sky license. So that leads me to thinking about, okay, so people want to create easy access, and I call it cheap content. Now, when I started out, cheap meant rubbish. Cheap meant, that was a negative word. I don't think it is anymore. Cheap means it's accessible. It's there. And when we talk about technology being accessible, it means it's accessible to everybody. So, my thinking about those going down that route, it means that technology is accessible to all of you, everyone in this room. If you're into writing stories, write some stuff, pitch an idea. If you if you're into editing, edit some stuff together. But like my point about I just want to just keep.
Yeah, no, it's
my
great,
point
Sam.
about this thing about developing yourself. So you're interested in editing. Okay, edit, great. Be that creative person, but I also want to encourage you to really go and understand plugins. Understand how they work. Push that extra bit of knowledge base. Push yourself to what I call the edge of my technical knowledge. I spend a lot of time talking to engineers, and I go, oh, well, you've taken me to the edge of my knowledge now. We're going to have to draw this on a scrap of paper because now I'm a bit lost. But again, that thing about always, whatever you're doing, always ask the extra bit of how I got here. What am I making? How does that work? And I think you kind of, just to recap, future tech means better, easier access roles, I think, than tradition. If you went back 25 years ago, and I'm going to say it out loud, I think 25 years ago, it was someone you knew who someone you knew. You know what I mean? The TV industry was renowned for that. I think things have changed now. Tech is in your hands. It's available, and it's made it hopefully a more equal platform for people to access.
Very good. No, very impassioned speech there, Sam. Thank you very much. So very much taking that to stay ahead of the tech is to look at how we consume content. No, but it's brilliant. It's a great point, and I think we'll come to a lot of what you said a little bit later as well, because it's brilliant points. Thank you. So I suppose for people starting in the broadcast industry now, what would be sort of the key roles? What are the key roles that we always think, oh, we need this type of person, we need that type of person? Who are they? Who are those people? Charlotte,
I'm going to kick off with OBs if you'd like. And actually, I'm going to kind of go back and almost go against my earlier point about having that really broad skill set. I'm not sure if any of you have an interest in working in OBs, but we actually have a real lack of people coming through in the traditional outside broadcast roles. So vision guarantees, sound engineers, VT. So actually, I would say that for me, I'm going to go back and say it'd be great to have a few more people coming into those roles and actually kind of focusing in with a real outside broadcast mind on them.
Perfect. Well, that's great. So it can be somebody with a sound passion, going back to your previous point,
exactly,
but
and
who really
into,
wants to work
so
in
if you're
an
going to,
broadcast.
I don't know the age of this room, but like Ravensbourne, Solent, Surrey, they've all got these amazing courses looking at those areas, and I can assure you that, again, going against our earlier point, if you were to go for one of those roles and then looked afterwards for a career, I think they've had almost, nearly every single one of their graduates goes on to get an amazing job at an outside broadcast company, whether that be EMG, NEP, Timeline, or your smaller ones, Zest TV, Limitless. So I think that, for me, is actually, we just got a real shortage of people coming through because of, as you were saying, this, and it's amazing how much more accessible content is. It's incredible. But that, for me, is actually a bit of a problem for the longer form.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So outside broadcast, and Sam, from your Premier League Productions hat on.
I mean, that's really interesting what you're saying, because I've sat here and espoused how great it is to have, easy access technology that everyone can do. But you're absolutely right. We also struggle to fill sound guarantees. The way we broadcast and package up all our matches is through small little mini galleries, and we need sound engineers, and we can't find sound engineers because they're not coming through. Because I think I don't know where they are, but they're not. There's not enough of them. So if you're a sound engineer, if you're interested in sound and technology, you know what? Stick at it. Move forward. Make connections. Talk to people. Train yourself up. Get some experience. You know what I mean? But there is work out there.
So you're on LinkedIn as well, right, Sam? Yeah. Yeah. And Dan, what about you from a camera perspective?
I would say, from my perspective, and the people I've met on my travels, there's definitely a shortage of golf ball follow camera ops.
That is
very
so
specific.
Dan.
Very
is
specific.
Anyone in this room a massive golf fan? Because Dan's got a job for you guys.
Well, if you want to find a role that they really need it, it's a ball follow. Ball follow.
And you don't even have to love golf.
No,
I think you should love golf if you're going to be sitting through hours of golf. I'll be real.
You just got to follow that dot in the sky.
It's a long tournament.
And you must see a lot of need for predators as well, so people who can do both those roles.
There's a lot of, what do they call them now, shooting PDs? Mm-hmm. Predators was a term that I'm not a fan of.
Yes, I suppose.
We used to have editors at BT Sport, so it's a producer-editor role that you're kind of put together and you're responsible for it. I've actually thought it was a great job. I've always wanted to be one of those, just purely for the job title. It's quite cool,
but now you want to follow
No,
Balls.
I never at any point offered to be the ball follower, ever.
Yeah, so I would say, if you can shoot, edit, produce, there's going to be roles out there for you. Just find the niche in the content that you want to film, not necessarily that wider role.
Not necessarily golf, but definitely one to look into. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. So coming back, I think, to a little bit of what we touched on earlier, you know, and what Sam brought up as well around, you know, in a world where everybody can be a content creator, right? Everybody can do stuff from their phone and make amazing content, watchable content. How do we protect, you know, the future of these tech roles, right? And what's the future for that kind of a role in this kind of an industry? So, Sam, do you want to continue what you were saying a little bit around your Premier League delivery, the digital content, that sort of shoulder content that comes along with the traditional broadcast?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the traditional roles are still going to be needed. I mean, you know, I say the words like EVS, you know, but when you're an EVS operator these days, rather than sort of the traditional way of, I'm not sure any of you are familiar with the playback. EVS.
Replay operator, right?
Yeah.
EVS.
Yeah, EVS pretty much does replay. But what we're doing in the football world is that you don't have to be a whiz bang. But what you've got to be is you've got to be able to see the shot. Your technology and your content feel like they've slid closer together. So, you know, you don't have to be a fantastic EVS operator, you know, to be able to be a good EVS operator within that industry that you're talking about. Think about what you're doing and enjoying that. But that where production and technology really meld within these roles. You know, you just said the producer directors. I think as well that idea about what we're making, what we're producing, what people want to see, and what we're delivering. You know, we're no longer, yes, we're delivering a football match, but we're also doing all the roundups. We're doing the best goals. We are. You know, start thinking about cutting those pieces and what do people want to see on their phones, which is what you want to be watching, what you want to be creating in a way. I don't know whether
That's good.
And I think the other thing about, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people, and I have this. I'm just going to reiterate what I've said before, was if you want to be a director, you know, understand cameras. You know, if you want to be a writer, understand, you know, sound, understand something else that's going to pair. If you're a creative, pair it with another bit of technology. Marry those two skills together. You know, don't let those skill bases work in isolation. I think that's what we also.
I think where we benefit at IMG is, you know, because we're sports based, so, you know, no amount of like mobile content is ever going to recreate live match coverage, right? So and same for you on OBs, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's why I think our ultimate point, I think which we all agree, is that for everyone in this room, you've got so many opportunities, whether you like the short form or whether you like your traditional outside broadcast, because now they do all live together. But from my point of view in outside broadcast, I always need to be there to produce, whether it be the Saudi Cup, which is horse racing, or whether that be a live boxing game. I'm always going to need to boxing fight, match, God. But thank you, Dan. We are always going to need to be there with that traditional camera setup, but we still need that kind of content alongside it, which helps raise the profile. So those short clips, which are creating, you know, mobile phone stuff, still needs to be there. They have to work together. And so I think the big thing for everyone in this room is that there is an opportunity out there for you in whether it be sport. We are obviously massively sport focused, but this is easily transferable to entertainment, to news. So I think you just have to be very positive. You're coming to an industry where you're really needed and wanted.
And you're seeing a lot of, we are at IMG, and with your help, seeing a lot of more remote production, right?
Absolutely.
So as much complementing what you said about the OBs, and that creates a whole sort of wealth of new roles as well, doesn't it?
And also a wealth of opportunity for people. I don't know how many of you have been in an outside broadcast track. It is such a hostile environment. It is, but even for accessibility, right? Because quite often they're in muddy car parks and they're up really tight steps. There's no lift access. Quite often, if you're based in London, you don't want to have to go up to Newcastle to do a football game for 4 days, right? So actually this gives us opportunity to have a hub somewhere. And so it gives us opportunity both in terms of roles, but also the accessibility now is so much wider for people, and that is amazing.
That's a great point. Thanks, Charlotte. And Dan, you've seen new rules around the sort of the live view technology. If you can give a little overview of the
so
live view. And
I obviously came into IMG and ended up in the kit room with the cameras, but over the years I've seen technology changing, and I've got involved with live view would be the brand, but wireless encoders using cellular networks. I'm going to talk about golf again because I've applied it to a golf course with IMG, and it just makes what wasn't reachable because golf is the biggest playing field we've got, right? So from a traditional OB, that would be through fibre runs with big trucks. What we were able to do with the LiveView packs, which is basically a backpack full of SIM cards, is broadcast live from the cameras wirelessly using the cellular networks, and then getting that back to the cutting room at Stockley Park and produced live with a few latency issues, but we're working on them. But what it's made possible is the lower tier sporting events that we wouldn't normally broadcast live. We've made it possible, and there is an audience out there for it because I've been on the OB.
And then was that the women's golf?
Yeah,
it was again something that actually traditionally hasn't had a massive sort of, unless you're kind of doing the Solheim Cup or sort of a major open for the women, would not have had that coverage. And so it's, again, it gives us an amazing opportunity.
There's such a market for it because I can see the feeds coming in. I can see.
So it gives us an opportunity to grow again a women's sport which doesn't necessarily have that coverage, and I think that is amazing as well with these kind of what technology gives us.
So it's extra coverage and extra roles within the new technology.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, and with the growth of 5G, that's only going to be a growth market. So it'd be a good one to concentrate on if that's of your interest. Because it's definitely on mine.
It's very good. Yeah. Now, we're out of questions, but I don't want to put you on the spot. Well, I sort of do because it's such a great story. You need to hear about the last time Charlotte was in this facility.
Yeah, I was meant to say that, wasn't it? The last time I was here, it's a very different audience because I was here for a boxing weigh-in with Tyson Fury, and it got really out of hand. So it's really nice to see it less aggressive. Tyson Fury.
So far.
Guys, let's keep it. Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, and they out where the stonework show is. They walked down. We had a jib. There was some really flashy lights. It was wild.
Brilliant.
So actually, it's been a nice return.
Excellent. So that's it from us. Unless you guys have any questions for any of the panelists.
In terms of short form content, are you finding it's becoming more and more personality based? It's dependent on players, individual connections from fans to players, that sort of parasocial relationship rather than the team kind of being the question.
I look at the kind of the content that PLP are putting out, and you're right. You bang on. People are just, as I say, going and watching a match and scoring and looking at how many goals. Oh, that was an amazing goal. Because frankly, there's not enough goals in football to make it very interesting. So, help. I mean, Aussie rules, different story. But where we're talking now. But yes, on a serious note, we're seeing a lot more again, roving cameras going out, speaking to players, speaking to fans, as you say, speaking to people because they're having to get that reconnection between that sport and younger people who are not going to pubs. How do you keep young people involved in football? Because we're interested in different things. We want to know whether a player is interested in climate change, in a way. We don't compartmentalize in the same way that I think our parents might have done. And maybe that's grossly unfair to our parents. I don't know. But, we don't say, I want to go to the pub and watch football and I care about the miners' strike. They're going to go, these are the same things. I want to know what my person I like thinks about this topic over here. Socially, we mesh stuff together. And I think, to your point, short form and keeping people's concentration, because now I've slagged off the old people, the young people, concentration span is limited, one might say, in the old days. I joke aside. But again, reaching that connection between people is so much more important now, and something we can do in short form. But again, it's getting it onto the right platform. It's making it I don't think anyone's got the magic formula for those in this room here who write, who are interested in script and producing, finding that little thing that's going to, you know, who thought carpool was going to work? You know what I mean? But again, finding that thing that's going to bring people together is what the creatives are doing as well.
And I think on top of that as well is reaching out to the non-football fans as well. So for Premier League, building that audience globally is really important. So for the non-massive football fans like Sam and I, but people who love a story, that's what those digital clips, the short form clips that you're talking about, that draws on an emotion or a personality is really important.
And they're finding a home.
Yeah, but I was going to say also for CBS, so we do Champions League coverage for CBS, which is Thierry Henry, Michael Richards, Jamie Carragher. When I joined IMG, the amount of my friends that knew that we did that for CBS, and it's purely because actually the content, that short form content that we put up, just of those three as pundits, means the traction we get is unbelievable. They probably get more likes on like an Instagram post than they do of any of the football content. So your point is actually really valid, that I think people not only want to use the players, but actually quite often the pundits they like to know a lot more about. And I also think another really good example, although this is long form, Netflix Drive to Survive with Formula One. How much has Formula One grown now? Because actually people that have never had an interest in that. So I think your point, both for short and actually long form, people love to know the people involved, and that has grown that unbelievably.
Yeah. Just to add, I think with football, which I am a fan of,
Not just golf.
I think for years the gap between the fan and the player has been too big, and in the short form telling, we need to bridge that, bring the fans closer to the players, in the way we film, in the way we tell stories, because that's what we watch the game for, the stories. And the players we know through the game. And it works with other sports, like F1, like you were saying. Drive to Survive has been brilliant for that, because it puts a character behind a wheel. So I really enjoyed it. I'm not really into F1 that much.
Thank you for the question.
From a more editorial perspective, shooting and editing skills, where would you recommend to focus our efforts most, be it the FX9 or the FX6, which is a bit more nimble, Premiere Pro? What would you, in those two lanes?
Camera-wise, I'd say IMG are pretty much FX Surrey line focused. Well, I work in with cameras, so I would say respect the glass, respect the craft with the cameras, and then that would improve your editing, because you're sort of self-editing in camera. But yeah, definitely Sony FX3s, FS6, FX9s, although there is a big version upgrade coming which might change the game on that a little bit. Sony Barama would be a camera to look at. Yeah, but definitely for us, and my store is Sony FX line.
I was just going to ask, as AI gets better, I'm sure everyone's thinking it. So what are the strides and what's the direction? So for example, the ball tracking, right? Is that saying that effectively is just going to become AI powered because it's far more accurate, far more easier, and it relieves the stress on you lot having to find the people to do it? Or actually, is the AI really just nowhere near the mark yet?
I think we're working on that, on the AI front.
It's a wide
AI
open
front,
field.
yeah.
That's a big question.
Exactly.
It deserves a big answer, which I haven't got for you yet, but I'm working on it.
I think from an IMG perspective, you're asking from our company. I think as most people are who are in the industry, they're working on a strategy, right? We're working on a strategy. We're trying to decide where it best suits what we do. There, in a lot of cases, it's not good enough to replace the humans yet, right? In some places, it probably really is, and we'll look to make some investments. But we're a real people company, and we are, fundamentally a real people industry too. So don't worry about that replacing your jobs just yet. Yeah. Anyone else? Andy?
I was just on behalf of people in the room looking for careers. So directly with your organisation, What are you looking for in people to join the business? So as well as obvious relevant editorial or technical skills, what else are you looking for in applications? What advice can you offer the room to help them do a good application if they want to come and work with you for a people company?
Great question. Anyone else want to take that one? Or do you want me to?
I joined 6 months ago, so I guess I've done the most recent application, I guess. I found it quite stressful, actually. I just found it really stressful because I really wanted the job. But actually, it was, I think, just in your interviews, again, be really honest, be yourself. IMG do like quite a big interview process, don't you? You go to an HR stage and then you go to an in-person phase. I think that in those applications, if you do get an interview, be really honest. But this is advice for any job interview. And don't try and sort of say you can do X, Y, and Z if you can't, because you might get found out. So just prove yourself. You're there for a reason. I have to say, I think joining IMG, it's a brilliant company. I've really enjoyed it. I was a bit nervous, having been somewhere for 10 years. And actually, we've come into an incredibly friendly, kind environment where people don't mind if you make mistakes. And that's a great company to be at. So always look for somewhere like that, because actually the support I've had I met Danielle on my first day, and you just made me feel so welcome. And I think we're very lucky that we have an environment of not being afraid to make mistakes and trying to encourage everyone to grow a little bit further. So
exactly, and I think in terms of the type of people rather than just the type of roles, right? I think we primarily, like I touched on earlier, we are a real people business, and the passion, I think, is what we're looking for, right? We're looking for people who stand out from the crowd because they really want to do the stuff that we do, right? And the people who really want to do, like I want to meet people who really want to do my job, so I can do someone else's job and they can come and do my job, right? And having, I suppose, preceded all of you at IMG, it's embarrassed to say, but actually proud to say. But I've seen amazing things in all of these guys, right? And they all bring something different. We don't want people who are exactly the same as each other. We want people to bring diversity to our company, because that will bring diversity to our output. So even though you might want my job, please don't try to be me. Like, try to be somebody who's going to challenge me, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to say about, because I've been here 3 years, so I've done a lot of rounds of interviews for people who come into our production services area, and I think I'm renowned for asking the tough questions. Apparently, there's someone in the room who can vouch for that.
Abs.
Thank you, Abs. I think there is an understanding from people in our position who know that you're coming for this starter role. We know you're coming for a starter role, and for you guys to find that really delicate balance with us, where we know we'd like you to stay for 2 years, but we know after 2 or 3 years, you know what? If your interests lie in other directions, that's an acceptable. You don't have to. There's not a predetermined route that every starter job you go for is going to lead to. So apply for those jobs. Yes, be honest, in 2 years I might want to do something else. Obviously, if you go into a room and say, I'm here for this job, but really I don't want to. I want to be doing something else. Well, not so much. But but go for the jobs knowing that the people who you're going to work for expect you to move on. They want you to move on. They want you to develop. So getting that first step in and knowing that job may not be exactly what you want to do, but it's going to lead to something. You are going to learn something, and it will take you down and open doors into other areas. So, apply for anything and show passion that you want to do it. Thank you. I don't know if that's deviated slightly there, but
That's nice. Thanks. Yes.
Hi. I'm very glad that you talked all about those things. I'm a post-production coordinator, currently very interested into virtual production. And I wonder if this kind of new technology has affected your company, or are you thinking about introducing any of the new?
Yeah, so virtual studio is specific. May I please say I love your glasses? They are amazing. Well, we do have an amazing virtual studio for Premier League production, and I'll let you as the expert.
Is that what you were asking about, the virtual world? Yes. Yeah, and we put one in 2 years ago now for Premier League. Obviously, you can't watch it in this country because we broadcast globally, but not in this country, so it's tricky. But I was a skeptic. I was a traditionalist. I liked the hard set, the sofa, the feel, the rough and tumble of real stuff.
What happens in that studio? Sounds like
Tyson Fury again. Stuff that can break. Do you know what I mean? But seemingly you can't break a virtual world. But what I love about it, what's brought to me again, it opened up a whole new career path for people, is the virtual world, the graphics. The screen. We used to be able to put a little. We thought we were clever doing a bit of a DVE move. I might be speaking to a lot of people who don't know what that was anymore. But now you can insert beautiful graphics and stuff. And I think that whole graphical world, our whole expectations of what we want. So if you were thinking about graphics and that kind of virtual stuff, we do a fantastically interesting program called Data Zone, where we take one of our big matches, we send it out to a third party who send back the graphics, which we overlay, which is like how fast they run, how where the balls, how hot are they? It's all this data stuff, and that's this virtual stuff that we want to be stimulated by numbers. We want to be stimulated by beautiful graphics and imagery, and I think the virtual world and virtual studios has opened that up immensely, and I love it.
So I'm a post-production professional, mainly an offline editor. And what advice would you give it to me to, let's say, if I want to transit towards, the sports industry, for that matter? And I have a second question, if I can. So looking at what is happening in Bernabeu with Real Madrid, right? They have a new stadium now. And there was a debate some time back that they are going to give access to telephones because everyone is watching while the match is happening. So how do you see content being produced in terms of the sports capture, but people are more glued to the telephones within the stadium?
Two very good questions.
I missed the first question, but I can try and address the second question. So I looked at some very interesting technology a couple of weeks ago that we trialed, which pretty much meant we brought a server into our MCR control room, and we had people out at the ground on cameras sending us back footage. We wanted to see what it was like. Now, and what it looked like. We wanted the content, but we also wanted the technology. And as you rightly say, it looked great until we got another 40,000 people in the stadium. So unless the stadium or the location gives you private connection, for want of a better word, that you can get on, I don't think the technology is there yet.
Well, I've actually been to that. I've actually been to that stadium quite a lot, and it's not a pleasant environment to work in at the moment. I'm going to be. I hope no one from Real Madrid TV is in this room. It is highly unpleasant, and it's not. I know they're trying to make this amazing broadcast centre and stuff like that. They're trying to make. If you're not we call it an MVP. So if you're not the host broadcaster or the main visiting broadcaster, so in a Champions League game, if it's Real Madrid against Liverpool, then that would be TNT would be the main visiting broadcaster. All other broadcasters, so me as CBS, would actually be put remote away from the stadium. And the minute that isn't actually a workable solution, I've been there and it's not there yet. So I get what Real Madrid are trying to do, but actually, even at a stadium of that size, it's not ready yet. And I hope that it will be soon, because it's a bit of a dusty building compound at the moment, I'll be honest. But I wouldn't feel comfortable at the moment actually doing a game in the way that they would like me to do. So I get what they're trying to do, but I don't think it's there yet, if I'm being honest.
Very interesting question. Thank you. Yeah. And to your first question about transitioning into sports editing, I think it's all about the transferable skills. And again, going back to having a passion, if you have a passion for sport, then, I think you can sort of focus on that and the storytelling aspect, right? So you could almost, you could do some practice edits of, recreate highlights. So you've got that in your reel. But if you already have a long credit list, I think it's people who are looking for like I say, those transferable editing skills. That helps. Thank you. Andy, another one. Wow.
No, come on now.
Surely the time's up.
I'm not sure you answered the question. I think the question the gentleman was asking was, and it's quite interesting for a sports production company like IMG to think about it. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think what the question was is, more and more people are watching content on their phones while they're at events. Right. So as a sports content producing company, how do you see your role, and what sort of content do you think is applicable for people in the stadium as assistant content? So you're there watching the game, but what else could you serve?
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were asking, right?
Was it? Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
So actually, is the fan in there? See, I have a very purist view of that though, because I appreciate we've spoken a lot about football today. We do other sports at IMG a lot. I want to be watching the football, actually what's happening. So I kind of see what you're saying, but I think I have a very purist view of that I'm there and I want to watch it. I don't know what.
But it is challenging, isn't it? Because it goes back to the attention span thing too, massively, doesn't it? And having, and it's almost like what you need to do is provide that shorter content for somebody to watch on their mobile phone while they're always also watching the live football, even though that should be the main event. And well, you could go really North American and have the in-stadium displays. You could have the kiss. What do they do?
Kiss cam.
The kiss cam, yeah. Or now just the Taylor Swift cam, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you see, I mean, I'm not going to agree with you on that.
Please don't.
I'm going to. I mean,
It's going
shock.
Sam.
I'm going to go that, you know, I remember when I first was able to second screen, you know, on my sofa. And I thought, man, this is cool. So I am believing that we can do more. You're right. And I don't want people being in the football match and watching the hockey. But I may want people to be at the football match and then for us to be broadcasting what I talked about before, Data Zone, which is that same live action, but we are now putting something else on top of it. We're giving you data. We're giving you the game. We are giving you something else to excite you on your screen. But you are just having multiple layers. So I think that might be, I find that amazing. Like, we're starting doing it by this program called Data Zone with a company called Second Spectrum. We are providing the live footage. They are bringing this data back, fully designed with everything that we want. I mean, the next thing for me is going to be where the taker, the person on the phone, can tick what layers they want on them. You know what I mean? Give me. I want to know what speed they're running at, or I want to know how many miles they're running in that match. You know, maybe you're the data person, and I think for that is really super exciting. Yes, not watching two different types.
I'm a Millwall supporter, so I've generally got a lot going on in the crowd, let alone on the pitch. So it's keeping me well entertained, to be honest, Sam. But I do agree with you. The people do like that personalisation.
Yes.
And I think, as you did allude to earlier, the younger audience and people enjoying that stuff, then you're absolutely right. Everyone always wants something different, and that is the beauty of what we have available to us now. You can have that personalisation.
And the shorter content.
And that shorter content. So I do think you're right. The data programme that we have is incredible.
Yes.
And for certain people, they would really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Just maybe not.
It'd be good for golf as well. You can do the ball speed
and a program football myself.
Meat pie and a program. I like it. I like it. Very good.